Welcome to Saints on Cinema. I am Tim Wilde, and this is
Zachary. How's it going, guys?
Zach. All right, Zach has joined me on several discussions, and we especially enjoy doing our Cobra Kai discussions. And today on this episode, we're going to begin our series of discussions on the long-awaited Mandalorian series, and we are excited to talk about it. I have some things I want to discuss. There's a lot of praise going all around about this, and not too much criticism, but as everyone knows, I always have to find faults in almost everything that everyone else likes. But we want to jump in.
I have two very small complaints about the first episode.
Just two small complaints about the first episode. It's 2 episodes in. I'm going to put this out as quickly as possible, but starting next week, it'll be a week-to-week show. Save it be the week of the Rise of Skywalker movie release comes out. There won't be one that episode or that week, but we're going to pump these out as fast as we can, talking about each one, because there's a lot. After I saw the first episode, I was like, there's a lot to talk about, so I definitely want to do a breakdown instead of just doing an overall review. So, Zach, thanks for joining us to get into this, because I wanted to talk to someone who's a little more in-depth in Star Wars like myself. Josh said he could talk about it, but it wouldn't be as interesting of a conversation, kind of like when I talk to him about anything about sports movies. So we're going to dive in. Just like our Cobra Kai episodes, we're going to go episode by episode. We'll try and go through this as quickly as possible because there's a lot to go through. But before we do that, I just want to ask, just overall, we're not going to do a breakdown of the review of, score and the cinematography and all that stuff, because everything's really great. I think everything's key in bringing this whole thing together to be a really masterful piece of a series that's not on the big screen. I think it's very well done. The effects are just a little bit cheaper than what you would get in a big blockbuster, but that's expected. And I know a lot of money went into the series. So I don't have any complaints, but is there anything you want to say about any of that overall stuff before we just break into the episode, Zach?
No, I thought they were great. Great to amazing. I am actually surprised. I heard that they spend $100 million per episode. I have a hard time believing that. But if they did, that's fine. I mean, it's not that it looks bad. It's just that it doesn't look like it cost $100 million per episode.
Yeah, especially for half-hour episodes. And I didn't think anything of that really until I started watching some other discussions. I haven't watched any. I never go into a lot of reviews of shows, and if I'm going to do a review like this, so I haven't watched many reviews or discussions about it, but I know some people are talking about that, the 30 plus time frame. And the really cool thing about it is they're not sitting there lingering. If they finish their story for that episode, they stop and they just move on. We just wait till the next episode.
That's what I think is great about the online format. When you're on a television format, it's very strict. You have to end at certain times so that they can have the commercial breaks. Whereas with the streaming service, they're like, we'll just tell our story as long as we need to, and then we can wrap up.
And on Disney Plus, it's like this is their property, and they're like, this is what we're gonna do. Here it is, 32 minutes. Deal with it or don't watch it. Oh, that's gonna be the phone's gonna be going off. Let me just ask you though, what do you think about the week to week as opposed to just one binge, one whole season drop like they do in a lot of services?
So I think it's smart in a lot of ways. I think this is Disney Plus's way of keeping people for a while, right? They don't want people to just sign up, binge The Mandalorian, and then cancel Disney Plus, because there's plenty of people who would do that. In fact, I was kind of planning to do that, but now that I've gotten on Disney Plus and seen actually all that they have, I'm kind of like, maybe I'll stick around for a while. There's actually a lot of stuff on there. It's not just Disney cartoon.
Next week's our first stream with or podcast with Josh since Disney Plus released this last week. I'm excited to talk about what I actually saw the experts. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. But yes, I agree. I think it's great. I think it's awesome to. I've seen a lot of people complain about it, but to have it break down episode to episode, it gives you time to digest it and to think about it, and the fun parts of speculating that what's going to happen next and what was revealed this week and what that tells us about last week. And I wanted to start a week-to-week party to watch it on a regular basis with a group of friends for that reason, because I haven't been in a week-to-week viewing of a show since Lost, and I know Game of Thrones, I watched, the last couple seasons, week to week as it came out. I was sitting by myself. I wanted to have a gathering of people talking about everything that was revealed and everything happened. And so I'm excited about it. But
I mean, I have it with my friends. The nice thing about it is it gives you time to talk with your friends about it and kind of speculate on it and get excited for the next episode about what they're going to do. So
that excitement is cool.
Yeah, I like it.
I mean, it's kind of like when we did the Cobra Kai, you know, we had a lot to say about every episode in our two episode conversations. But if that was dropped week to week, we'd have had a week of thinking and talking about it and excitement for what was going to happen next. And there was a lot of really good cliffhangers in each of those where it all drops at once. You binge through it. You kind of miss some of that build up, but it's okay.
Maybe they'll reconsider that for season 3. Maybe they'll try and do it, you know.
Maybe, but I don't know, because I think you're right. I think this was a way to keep people hooked, and you know, with the last season of Game of Thrones with HBO, they really want to keep their subscriptions before that ended, so they couldn't throw it all out. It was like 6 episodes or whatever.
Right.
They couldn't throw it all out in one time because then everyone would get it and then cancel. They had to keep people hooked for their next couple months and hope people forget to cancel.
Right.
All right. So episode 1, I think I could have sworn they had names on them, but when I was just looking, I couldn't see them. But I thought the first episode was just called The Mandalorian, and the second episode I thought I saw was called The Child.
The Child. Yeah.
Is it The Child? That wasn't just me. Okay. But The Mandalorian. First of all, I have a question to propose to you, Zach. This is not really important, but it's something I thought about tonight. How have we in the movies always had a concept of what time frame any of the movies were outside of like the internet?
That's a good question, because I honestly didn't know exactly what time period this was in, and I had to look it up after watching the first episode to kind of be all like, wait, they said something about post-Empire.
Yeah.
So how far after is this? And then I found out it was 5 years after Return of the Jedi, right?
Yeah.
Which has a lot of implications, but I didn't know. Like with Rogue One, we knew what it was, but I think that's mostly because of the internet. I don't think there's anything that said, by the way, this goes between these movies, just so you know. Right.
And the meridian of time for the Star Wars universe is the Battle of Yavin. That's when everything is how far before the Battle of Yavin and after the Battle of Yavin. But in universe, you can't, you know, that's like us saying before September 11th. We don't canonize or set up our calendar that way. So it's just interesting. I was thinking about that. How did we know how far things were other than just knowing it from Wikipedia? Because they drop a lot of clues in giving an environment on when this takes place from the script. But I was thinking about it. That's never really happened before. I just thought, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting.
It is interesting. I mean, and one of the big things is, I don't know if you want to go right into spoilers.
Yes, by the way, if you watched this, you already saw it, and whatever.
Okay. So when you get the creature reveal at the end of his bounty target, I was all like, "Whoa, when is this? Like, is this a direct reincarnation of Yoda, or is this like a child of Yoda and Yaddle, or what? What is going on here?"
There's a little kinkiness on the side with their forbidden love, but hey.
Well, that's why I'm like, it wouldn't make any sense for that. He's like, I don't know. Or maybe he could have helped Anakin out if that was the case. I don't know. Who knows?
As I was thinking about, when someone threw that out the very first time, I was like, well, you know, if you think about it, in those conversations with Anakin and Yoda, he was the least strong worded person. I don't know how to say it. I don't have strong words.
Critical.
What's that?
Least critical of Anakin?
Least critical, yeah. He was, as far as like attachment, all that stuff, he gave his little speeches, but he wasn't like, you can't do that. He never had that kind of an attitude. He's like, you know. And we see that a lot more later with Luke when he's like, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think he had a little bit different perspective. I think that's right. But
anyway.
Yeah, so I had to figure out the time period, just be all like, does he reincarnate immediately? Sounds like not, because it's 5 years later.
He's like a phoenix.
But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
But that would make sense I do not think this is anything Yoda. I don't think it's anything related to Yoda. I think it's a species, because Yoda, and there's nothing else to call it but Baby Yoda, but like, you can't, if Yoda is a Force ghost later, unless this thing's gonna die, in which that's, I don't know. That's a little speculation stuff that we talk about later, but like it wouldn't make any sense for this to be Yoda in any any contrast with the.
I think you're right. It's just. I mean, I don't know what it is. I just throw out all sorts of crazy things.
Yeah.
I actually think it could be because the Empire is seeking it. One of my theories is that the Emperor cloned Yoda, especially in the Clone Wars cartoon and Rebels cartoon. You find out the Emperor was just cloning everything just to have clones of stuff. So this could be a clone that the Emperor got of Yoda, and now the Empire knows that it exists and wants it back. Something like that.
Interesting. Well, let's talk about that, because I want to talk about those guys that are trying to that do the hire. I want to talk about that. But okay, so backing up a little bit though, let's talk about the opening sequence. He lands on this planet, and he goes in that bar fight. That entire bar fight that was in the first trailer. I love that the trailers for this series were completely wrapped up mostly in the first episode. I like that now all of it is just uncharted territory for us, right? Undiscovered country. Throw a Star Trek. But the bar fight was really awesome. It sets up this regular like old Western saloon situation, and he was talking to the guy, and then I thought the sequence was filmed a little dark. It kind of reminded me of the Battle of Winterfell in the last Game of Thrones series, but I don't know. I don't know if anyone else had that. I didn't hear anyone else talk about that, but it just seemed like you couldn't really see a lot of what was going on. Did you have that problem at all?
No, I didn't have any visual problems with that.
Just looked really dark. Maybe I got to play with my settings, but that fight was really cool, and he didn't come off as all like mercilessly. Except for I had a question. Well, not a question, but an observation. He goes up and he has that awesome line where he says, "I could take you in hot, or I could take you in cold, or whatever."
Yeah.
If you think of it, when he takes him in in carbonite, so he actually did take him in cold.
That's funny. I didn't put that together.
So hot would have been like a body that just died. I don't know. But yeah, he takes him in, and that whole sequence, it was awesome. It's a good introduction to the character. But we talked about this a little bit, but my whole thing is like the character is being portrayed as like completely cold, not cold, but very like mysterious and what's the word? He's passive and mysterious. Gosh, I can't say.
No, I think you're right. I think there's a few things to go with that. I think their goal is to reveal his character over time without
real personality instead of like cool and preserved. That's what I was thinking of.
Well, you're gonna find out more about him as it goes, but it's not gonna feed it to you. It's not gonna be all like, just so you know, this guy is this, and here's all his thoughts, and here's his ideas.
Yeah.
Here you go. You're just going on his journey with him.
Yeah.
You're gonna find out, except for one moment which I thought was kind of dumb. But aside from that, yeah.
Okay. Well, I agree, and I think they're trying to hit us with our good, exciting incident leading us into the story. He has a bar fight and everything's really cool. It gets his thing. He shows his bounty hunter, throws the puck, and we now know exactly who he is, what he's like, and the type of a person he is on the job. Then he gets out, and then he goes out to the little dock, and he goes to the, I think they're what are they called, Kubas? I think that's where the little guy, the spy from Mos Eisley.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes and he calls for the speeders. Now I thought this was weird because why? It's like I was thinking it was like, what is this, like a taxi lineup? And like you just go like there's the next.
That's
one.
What it seemed like. You just wait for the next taxi to come. It's like their form of Uber, I guess.
Yeah, I get. But there was two ships when he got out. There was like two ships. I'm sure they could be spread out all over this frozen lake. But it was just weird that like the next one just came like immediately. It was like they should have him like just cut. Show him like sitting down for a minute and waiting. I don't know. Just show him like stand up as soon as the next one comes. It was like there was some time lapse. It was like he had that whole little moment just to say once again, no droids. And I was like, yeah, that was awkward. It's just like a like you said, an Uber setup. But I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird because how much traffic could this place really be getting to go to this little dump on this frozen planet just or to have a lineup of places or people taking out to your speeders?
I don't know. I've been to a lot of third world countries that are a lot like that. They have the sections that you get to that are in the middle of nowhere, but that branch off to all the different little cities that people have.
And then Short Round drives up and picks up Dr. Jones. And
I mean, people come up and pick you up. Literally, they just come pick you up.
With a little guy and a little old man inside.
You hop into your little Jeep or you get into your little car and go.
Right. The other thing that's weird about that is like as they're walking out, which is our first of many walking sequences, but he walks out there and his prisoner's behind him handcuffed, but he's not like tied or tethered or anything. He's just walking behind him. And we've now learned through the battle sequences that unlike Boba Fett, whose visor does see 360 degrees, the Mandalorian does not see behind him because he gets hit from behind multiple times completely by surprise. I think that's a really weird thing to that's a very arrogant way to march out there to your transport with your...
maybe. This guy was obviously not very threatening, though. I mean, literally everyone can beat this guy up or handle him. He's just a little weasel is all. He's not really physically a problem for anybody.
Yeah, for that guy. But I was saying, we've seen the Mandalorian get beat up quite a bit. But
yes, we have.
He just took out like 4 guys in the bar, so I guess. All right. Anyway, he jumps in there and they fly out. And they're trying very early on to give you a little sense of the environment and the personality through this guy's rambling talks. They get out there, they get to the speeder. He tries to say, I can hire us a better ship. And he doesn't care, he throws him out there. Then they have the snow dinosaur come up and start eating the one speeder and cling on to his ship. Did this sequence bother you at all, or was this fine?
I mean, I think it was just to show kind of the world that you're going to be in. You're in the Star Wars world. I didn't have any problem with it. Okay. This was not one of the ones I had a problem with.
It seemed to me like it wasn't a problem for me. It just seemed like a forced battle just to have something happen in this otherwise very slow episode. And it was fine. He gets him in there, takes him in the cockpit, and then they have their little dialogue. He gets out there and he grabs the 2-pronged gun. First Easter egg for the Star Wars Holiday Special, and everyone else has commented on that. I know I'm not original. I'm just saying, like, I was like, oh, there it is. And he goes out there, he shoots the dinosaur, and it's like an ion gun, just like in the Holiday Special, to shoot the dinosaur, and then takes off. Now, this is the first problem I had with the character itself. He's sitting there, not problem, I'm trying to figure this guy out. He's sitting there in the driver's seat, once again. Behind him in shotgun is his prisoner, handcuffed still, and this guy's just rambling, and very quickly he rattles off a few things I thought were important. One, he says, the ship is archaic, it's pre-Empire, so like you said, it's dating the time, which is this is good script. He says, I have a lot of credits, which shows you the Mandalorian is not interested in money. He wasn't, he has honor among his trade. And then he asked him how much are they paying you? He didn't answer. But then he said, is it true that you guys never take off your helmets? This is teaching a general audience who didn't watch all the Clone Wars and didn't read all the books, which I haven't done either of those things, that Mandalorians have some kind of a sacred tradition where they don't remove their masks. And we know Boba Fett we never saw him, but this is telling the audience a little bit about the Mandalorian culture. And there was a lot of things throughout this first episode that really set that up. I thought that was cool. And I like having a way of doing that coming from this guy, just annoyingly rambling. Being a fun way, or I guess a more interesting way of giving that information to the audience. But then he's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. And he excuses himself, goes downstairs, mentions Life Day, number 2 reference to the holiday special. And then he goes in, he sees the armory, he closes the door, he's like, well, I'm not gonna do anything with that stuff. And then he starts walking down in this thing where he's like in the belly of the whale, and you're like, what's he gonna do, or what's he gonna run into or come upon? And then this is really cool. And if you go rewatch, I want you to pay attention if you didn't hear it the first time. But as he's walking up, before he turns and sees the first carbonite block, you can hear the noises, the little wheezing that the block did in the Return of the Jedi. You hear better in Return of the Jedi. When Leia frees Han.
Right.
Did you notice that?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, that was so cool. And you hear all the little whistles and the turning, and he like turns and he sees, and then he recognizes the guy, goes to the other 2 and sees who they are. And I've heard several people like just laying out all these theories on who they all were, Hondo or George Lucas and Greedo. None of those make sense, especially Greedo, who's long dead. Right. I'm like, this is just people from his party, his group, or his band or whatever. Like, he recognized them. That's why I was like, oh my gosh. I think it makes no sense for it to be anyone else significant. And Hondo, yeah, I think it said Hondo, but like, then he turns and the Mandalorian's just right there. And that was like your little jump scare just for him to grab him and put him in there. Now, my thing was, if he was just going to freeze this guy in the first place, why did he bother letting him go upstairs, relax, sit there just to ramble off dialogue to the audience if he was just going to force him in there and grab him? Now, I thought about this. Maybe he had to go down, and Rhett mentioned this, friend of the show, Rhett Christensen. He said, he needed to get him down. And it would be more kind of an easier way just to let him wander down there himself and then just go and ambush him.
Right.
But you see in the background down there the ramp. He walked right past that to get up there. He walked past his stun guns and stuff. Like, it'd be nothing for him just to put the guy down before he got up there, because he was already up there before. No, I guess the dinosaur's still chasing him. But still, I don't know.
If you run into escape, I don't know. I guess he escaped the creature, went up and got the ship where it needed to go, and then he went and dealt with the guy. I don't know.
And that's fine. That makes sense. But the first time I was watching, I was like, why is he bothering this guy just to go down and jump scare him for the audience to have a jump scare moment for no real purpose? Other than, again, establishing.
I think it all boils down to this guy is not a particularly scary dude. If it was someone he was worried about, what's
the
that?
other guy. The
Mandalorian is, but the bounty that he captured, that it's just some dumb dude. Like, I don't even know why there's a bounty on him, to be honest. He probably lost money to somebody or owes someone money and they want him. Like, that's probably what it is. He's just not scary. If it was someone scary and he was letting him roam around his ship, I'd be all like, what are you doing? Letting someone near his armory? But I don't know. This guy wasn't scary at all.
Right, and he wasn't a threat to wander around, I guess. It makes sense, but I don't know. This is just about me trying to figure out what this guy's MO is, what's his personality, like how he behaves differently with different people around him. It's just interesting seeing it fleshed out. After the second episode, I was like, okay, I can see a little bit better.
Well, and I saw a conversation that one of our other friends had, I think. Rhett pointed it out to me about when he says no droids for the taxi. And then they're all like, but then he works with a droid later in the episode. And I'm all like, so when he says no droids about the taxi, does that mean he hates all droids and will never will use a droid in any situation whatsoever, ever? No, that doesn't mean that automatically. Especially since he does work with a droid at the end of the episode to the extent that it benefits him, and then he blasts the droid, right?
Well, so, I don't think that was a turncoat thing. I think he did that in preservation of the yodeling. I think not.
I actually don't know the answer to that. That might be true. I don't know why he's, and also if he is preserving the creature, I don't know why. But that's not my point. My point is, I don't think we should be making character judgments yet until we see kind of how they reveal his character and some of his background.
And all the criticism we had for the first episode, I said every time I disclaimed it, saying, look, I'm not judging the whole series off of how I felt about the pacing or any of the issues or inconsistencies with the personality of the guy in the first episode. I want to see how it fleshes out, and then I could just look back and maybe this was just kind of the boring episode when I think about it or whatever. Right. But I'm not judging the whole thing off of that at all. And after watching the second one, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of seeing where they're going. I kind of like some of it. Anyway, he goes back to the bar. He's talking to Apollo Creed. And there's three pieces in this conversation are interesting. He says, he tries to pay him in Imperial credits. And he says, I can't do anything with that because it's not a good currency anymore. Or not. It sounds like he can't trade very much with them anymore. Mm-hmm. But then he says he can pay you in calamari flan. Which is interesting because from the Empire, the calamari were an enslaved, and they were one of the first places to be. Well, this is old canon. This is expanded universe, legends now. But that the calamari, Mon Calamari, the planet, was supposed to be one of the first targets of the Death Star once it was operational, and it didn't live long enough to do that, and that's why most of the calamari navy joined the rebellion. So it's interesting that you see this flip where the Empire currency is no good, but Mon Calamari is something. He says, I have less of it, but it's at least something to trade with. So I thought that's interesting that they've kind of elevated in stature, and it gives you a little bit of a hint for the state of the Republic, because we've got nothing yet on the actual governing of the universe right now, which is what they don't need to go all into that with a lot of extended stuff, but I'm curious about that, because this hopefully will fill in a little bit of gap for what's going on in The Force Awakens and beyond. I know the books explain things, but it doesn't make a lot of sense.
So this is the stuff I like, and this is the stuff I liked about the original trilogy versus the prequels. But like, if George Lucas was making the next movie, he would probably take that single sentence and make a whole movie about why the Empire's money has gone down and the Mon Calamari money has gone up, and you'd be like, the details should just be there in the universe. You don't have to make entire movies about the detail.
Yes, right. I heard someone say a line. It gives me an impression of what's going on. In the first movie, I know who the emperor is. Imperials are good. Rebels are bad. Rebels there aren't many of them. They're kind of discarded by the military and the army, or the Imperial Navy. And the Senate was a threat, but they're gone. So okay, now the emperor's in charge with his bad guy forces. All right, I know what's going on.
Right.
Movies showing me the actual Congress sessions for them to get to that.
Exactly. Point. Yeah.
Anyway, so
I do think that's one good thing the Mandalorian is doing. It's throwing in little things without feeling like it's just shoving them in your face or like, I think it's good. I think it's good way it's doing. I love
the script. I think the script for these little things is really great writing, because the writing is like giving you what you need to know and not cutting too much, just boring dialogue, just regurgitating information. I think it's really good. Then he talks about the chain code. He asks, "What's the chain?" He says there's no chain code on the new bounty.
Mm-hmm.
And but it goes. The guy has.
I can give you the last 2 digits, and he's like, "You can only give me the age."
And that was weird. So when he's talking to Apollo says,
"Oh, sorry, yeah, that's right."
No chain, but there's no chain code. Now, first of all, I'm trying to figure out who I'm calling him Paul. I know it's Carl Weathers, but I don't know the character name yet. But Apollo Creed's like, look, it's almost, I don't know if he's his contact with the guild to issue him bounties, or if this is just a guy that has a lot of people he's hiring. But it seems like with the
man, what are they called? There's a word for him in like cyberpunk settings and where the guy who gives mercenaries their jobs, and I can't remember what they're called.
Bounty bookies? I don't know.
And they all have like the exact same name. Like they all go by John something.
Do they go by Apollo?
Let me see.
But he's some kind of a guild, like he's dishing out the contracts. That's kind of cool. So he says this other guy, there's no chain code, but the contact has deep pockets, which is interesting, because if we just establish that the Imperials' currency is like very little value, the deep pockets and the wealth that this guy has to pay is going to be in other things like the Mandalorian steel, whatever it's called. So I think whoever we find out who the payment's for, or who the job is for, it's going to be very interesting, because I don't think it's just that guy. I think there's more to it. I mean, we don't even know who the guy is, but when he talks to that guy, he says, first of all, should we just mention the stormtroopers in that sequence? Did you love that?
Yeah.
I loved it. I love how they're rickety. Some people are like, well, just clean your armor. It's like, no, it's not like that. This is not like a military setup anymore. This is just their
This is a remnant, right? Well, at least it appears that way. It's some kind of remnant. I think I read something too, saying that Mandalorian might explore some of the beginnings of the First Order, and so
explain something to me. I think I like too. I don't think I've ever seen anywhere else, but I noticed this the first time I saw it. Some of the stormtroopers, there's 4 of them in there. Like 1 or 2 have the blaster rifle that we all know, but 2 of them, or 1 of them at least, had the stormtrooper blaster pistol. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't notice that. That's cool.
Like costume photo shoots and stuff of the Imperial Stormtrooper and role-playing books and stuff. But he had like the regular blaster pistol. I've never seen that in a movie, to my recollection. I thought that was kind of cool.
Nice.
To see that other sidearm. Anyway, but and then the other 2 had Stormtrooper rifles. But I think their design was cool. Their voice, I don't know if you noticed, their voice didn't sound like a normal Stormtrooper voice. All the movies of Stormtroopers sounded a little familiar. I know they're not clones. That's not what they're supposed to sound like. But like some of them, whatever. That's a long story. But the one who says there's 4 of us or whatever, I'm like, it sounds different. It's almost like their built-in comlinks in their master or something, or like broken or something, or it's like they're just getting worn out or something.
Yeah.
Like, it's interesting. There's a little more human-y voice inside of it. So the sound design was really cool for little stuff like that.
I like those odds. So
he tells the guy, I have I can pay you or he said he gives him the first block, and he says, I have a whole camtono of this Bersker, whatever it was called.
Beskar, yeah.
For the job. So he has a whole bunch more of this rare, important material, which tells you when he kills the other, or IG-11 at the end and preserves the yodeling, he felt that was so important that he gave up this huge whatever a camtono is of this precious metal for his guild, that they even said several times how critical, or not how important it was that it got back to the tribe, to the clans, instead of being in the hands of some dealer.
Right. They want to have it back with the Mandalorian tribes.
Yeah, and then how valuable it was, to where she even says the remaining, after I make your plate, your shoulder guard, there'll still be some more that'll be benefit, or that can help the other foundlings.
Foundlings.
So this is so valuable. There was even more to make his plate, but he was turning down an entire whatever full of it for this youngling. There's got to be more.
Has he turned it down? How did he turn it down?
I don't think he said in that conversation, he says there'll be a much lower reward if it comes back to left. No, you're right.
No. He said if it came back dead.
You're right. And this is the other question. He was hired and told by the guy at the desk, whatever, I can't remember his name, that's a director, whatever. He's the one that made the job on behalf of the doctor. The doctor guy comes in.
Yeah, that's right.
By the way, the doctor guy, everyone's talking about the first time you see bathrooms in Star Wars. This is the first time I've ever seen eyeglasses in Star Wars other than goggles of some kind. You ever thought about that?
No, I have not thought about that.
Full-on glasses. You can see him like monocles and stuff, and like there's a couple guys in the canteen that kind of do, but like this guy's like full-on big nerdy scientist glasses. He's an archaeologist, or he's a doctor of some kind. He comes in and he seems very urgent. He's like, no,
keep it alive. Yeah, bring it alive.
And the other guy's like, it'll be a much less of a reward, but if you bring proof of its termination, then you'll get something. But the other guy seemed like he really didn't like that idea. He said that wasn't the arrangement.
Right.
So when IG-11 gets in there, IG-11 was told, or was hired specifically to terminate.
Yep.
They didn't come from the same place. I'm really curious on what the deal is with these hires.
Well, and I think that's going to cause some conflict later in the episode, right? It's like, what happened, or who's the other people going for this bounty that's going to be now going after the Mandalorian trying to get it, which is probably going to play out more in episode. And what's going to be
the motive for them that want, or what they want it for? I don't think it's just force sensitivity. He's going to turn, and that's why I don't think he's going to get the reward. I don't think he's going to turn over the yodeling for the guy, because, well, I don't know. It depends on who he is, but it's an ex-Imperial motive, and that might be just to kind of set up the audience to think they're the bad guys, and they may not be. Maybe they're trying to save it for whatever reason, and there's another person hired the guild on the contract to kill it, and they could be conflicting forces. Really open up to a lot.
Yeah, it's really open. I honestly, I don't know what direction they're going to go, because right now it seems like with his personality, he might just turn in the baby, but there's the part of you that's hoping he's human and isn't going to turn over the baby. But like you said, then you don't know, like, are these Imperial people actually bad? Like, the doctor doesn't seem to want to kill the creature or anything.
Right. But what kind of doctor is he? Are they doing
exactly
cloning thing? Is this a force infusion thing, like metachlorian blood testing?
Yeah.
But it's just like, I'm thinking he's going to spend enough time with the baby on these little mini adventures on the journey back from the bounty that he's going to become attached and say, well, what do you want it for? And then he'll have to fight his way to get the reveal, because that's like a need to know thing. He's going to like, no, I'm not going to let you do that to this thing. We become attached, and then it'll turn into, I'm going to sacrifice this big, huge treasure for my guild to save this thing. And then, I don't know. That's what I think. I think both parties trying to get it are evil, though, or at least are not in his best interest. Anyway, interesting conversation. A lot of those things came up. And he tells him, like you said, he says, we don't have a puck. We only have a tracking fob, which is that locator thing with the two danglies sticking out. He says, we only have the four digits of the code chain. And he goes, just their age.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
What I thought was fun about that, though, is they said he's 50, and in my mind, I'm going like, what actors in the Star Wars universe are 50? Like, who is that gonna be? And I was actually happy at the time that it was an adult, because I was worried he's gonna say, oh, 10, and I'm like, oh my gosh, another rescue of a kid, some kid who's super special and blah blah blah, and like, because I mean, even Star Trek Picard looks like it's doing that. You have Firefly that has kind of a thing that does that. You have, I don't know, the special kid that you have to go rescue. And then what's funny is, so they say 50, and I'm thinking, okay, it's an older person, but then it ends up being some special little baby. But I was actually okay with it, because they kind of messed with my expectations before they got there.
Yeah. And that reveal of the baby at the end was really good. Except I thought it was going to be a baby Hutt, because I was just like, is this going to be freaking the Clone Wars cartoon?
The Clone Wars movie. The cartoon movie.
When you saw the dome of the head, I didn't really see the ears at first. I'm like, what is it? And then I was like, I could tell it was like some alien creature. I mean, obviously it was some life form, but it was like, it's like in a little floating bassinet, you know. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Then he opens it, and there's the Yoda. Well, I liked it, but like I think it's going to turn into more baggage, because the entire next episode, not getting ahead too far, but the whole next episode, I'm like, why is he taking that thing to fight the rhino? Why is that thing following him up the freaking sandcrawler? Why did he leave it alone when he just got beat up by the Nikto guys? I was just like, wait, this is such a precious cargo, whatever. Anyway, we'll get there. Okay. He gets the job, right? He's not excited, but he's intrigued about this job, gets on a ship, and he flies over to the new location.
So before we get there, we passed my first concern.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. So it was a very tiny thing, but it's just like, look, I'm not stupid, but I guess there's people who need this. But when they hammer his Beskar shoulder, it does the flashbacks to his childhood where his parents get killed and he has a traumatic past. And I'm like, isn't that implied already by the fact that she's like, they're underground. It seems like their Mandalorian tribe doesn't really exist very well. They're trying to get any piece of Beskar they can. And can't this be revealed over time? Why did you shove in flashbacks? And I assume it's just for stupid people. Like that.
Well,
I get it, but at the same time, I'm like, come on, just let us go with it. I prefer to just let us go with his story as is. I don't like that.
I didn't like. It didn't seem to make sense why right there during the forging is when he had the flashbacks. But I think the whole purpose is going to be because it's a quick and cheap way to throw that flashback as a setup. Because I think they're just going to hit us over the head later with the reveal of his background.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a good subtle way of doing it like it should be. I know, like, here, if we put a little flicker of stuff right here, they'll think something interesting happened, and then we'll just bomb them with it later. It was
that's why I think you're right, and that's why I think it's minor. You say it quick and cheap. It is a quick and cheap way. I would have I honestly could have just had him leave it out, and I would have been okay. But I guess maybe other people wouldn't.
It reminded me of Ray's flashback, which was like, hey, all you did was just get us curious, and it's not like more interesting to watch Ray after seeing the ship fly out. Like,
no, it's not.
Getting Urso's as a kid being left with, and then what's his name?
Her dad.
The black guy. What's his name? The Forrest. Whatever his name is. Forrest Whitaker comes in and saves her from the hiding place and everything. I was just like, hey, this just gets boring. It gets old because it doesn't really serve a great purpose. I'm not any more intrigued with him because I saw the flashbacks, and there was no Easter eggs or anything interesting in the flashbacks. And I heard someone else, another show, was talking about it, and they're like, it'd be kind of cool if you saw like General Grievous or something cool with the Clone Wars. We know
right. Then at least there'd be something to acknowledge, I guess.
Battle droid march through or something, or just something that's there's at least something interesting to see other than a screaming kid with smoke falling around her.
Yeah, I agree. It's minor. It was very brief, but it was just kind of. I'm not stupid. Mm-hmm. You don't have to feed me. I'm okay. Right,
but let's talk about the guild because you mentioned that. As I was like, hey, there was no door to get in. It was like a curtain. But my son noticed. He goes in a curtain into this open space. Some people said that you saw Boba Fett armor there. Dude, this is some guy, and they're all in the shadows. You can't tell. They all stand kind of the same. Normal helmets, and one of them had like orange Greaves. It's like, that's not just Boba Fett. Like, everyone needs to relax. That would be so stupid to put Boba Fett in here as an Easter egg like that. If they're gonna come forth,
they're gonna bring him back. Yeah.
If you bring back Boba Fett, you're not gonna do an stupid Easter egg in the back of the story about a different Mandalorian. Give me a break. That's lame. Anyway, as he's walking through, you see kids running through the aisle. Like, okay, so there's this little dugout where these Mandalorians hang out with a big, huge golden, whatever their dinosaur that they worship, the mythosaur or whatever, stone up there, and a big medieval Ford. And Lance called it Space Rivendell.
Space Rivendell, sure.
He's just sitting there, and it's like, hey, we're not really in super hiding. We're in the same town as where there's obviously a lot of traffic for bounty hunters is. Like, I don't understand the status of the Mandalorians, and I know this is established in Rebels and Clone Wars.
Right.
Now I need to watch that to figure it out, but it's just like, I don't see it as like they're down and out. But they talk about the Purge. The blacksmith sheet mentions that this must have happened in the Purge because the bar had the Imperial seal on it, which I thought was awesome. This is like the old like Spanish money and gold and stuff. They had a little seal pressed on it. I thought that was really cool. This is like a trinket that survived all the wars. But they mentioned the Purge that happened to their people. I don't know what that means. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just the Empire went in and cleaned house on them.
Killed the Mandalorians?
Yeah.
This is the Jedi Purge. Because that's when Vader wiped out everyone. That was called the Great Purge. But this is a different purge. And I don't know about Mandalorians.
We can look it up right now because we have the internet.
Hey,
The Great Purge was an event in which the Galactic Empire gathered Beskar and stamped it with the Imperial crest. After the Empire's fall, the Imperial remnant had quantities of Beskar from the Great Purge and uses one piece as a down payment. So it's basically taking all their money and making it Imperial.
Interesting. So, I mean, because if it's what was called Mandalorian steel, now is called Beskar, they, I guess it's something to trade, but I mean, it is sacred to them, and it was always, this is old canon that they had their unique metals. That's how they could repel lightsaber bolts and stuff, and had really cool medieval weapons, like way back, like in the ancient times of the Star Wars universe. But like, to call it the Purge, the Purge already existed as the time when Vader and his the Inquisitors killed all the Jedi. So I don't know. I mean, that's old too. That's like 30 years they've been talking about that. I don't know. It's kind of cool. The forgery scene, by the way, I thought that was neat because that kind of reminded me of the old Galaxy. Did you play Star Wars Galaxies, the multiplayer game? And that was a big factor. But you had to find I didn't play the Bounty Hunter to do this stuff, but you had to get pieces and the ingredients you needed to make new peak gear and everything.
Yeah, that's right. I thought the scene itself was good. I just didn't like the flashbacks they showed in.
Yeah. But I thought it was kind of cool, and it was kind of like, I'm trying to be a little dramatic and stuff, and then cutting the flashbacks. Like, it's just a weird place to just throw that for no reason. I agree with you on that. Anyway, cut forward. He gets on the ship, goes to the planet that everyone thought was Tatooine, gets off, and he gets attacked by those blurgs.
They look, yeah.
It seems like they hunt Velociraptor style, where one of them stands
as the distraction. Yeah.
He turns to one, like, kills him, and then by then the other one comes upon him. I'm like, because they have to be doing that, because if it's just they're defending each other, then the one that Nick Nolte comes in, and it doesn't seem agitated that he just shot two of his friends. So I mean, whatever. They're just big fat Velociraptors. Chase him. I like the scene. He's flamethrowers going off. He can't get anywhere. He's like punching it and everything. I thought that was caught him off guard. But then the dumbest thing happens. He's down on the ground. He's pinned by the one. It's like laying on top of his arm. He can't get up. And then the other one comes charging at him, and he's flailing around like in total defeat with his hand resting right next to his blaster pistol, where he doesn't even try to take a shot off or anything. And he's like charging for a while. I'm like, just come on. I was like, this is not Boba Fett. And I know this isn't a comparison. The whole series isn't a comparison of Boba Fett. But I'm like, this guy is not. Boba Fett would never have gotten into many of these situations that we'll talk about another time. But I was like, he's charging him. His pistol's right there by his hand. Like, take it, try. I don't know. So, he shot the other, shoots it with the stun gun, which took it down instantly. Apparently, I'm sure his blaster would have done pretty good. Anyway, then Nick Nolte arrives. What'd you think of Nick Nolte?
I really liked his character. I did think this. He's a part of my other complaint, which I thought was really dumb. But it's not his character I have a problem with. I actually really liked him. I thought he was a cool little point of contact for that planet, right? Kind of help the Mandalorian get around and do the things he needs to do there.
Oh, story-wise, you're saying his purpose in the story.
Yeah, I thought he did good.
It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was good. It was fun to have a little old Ugnaught too. There's a lot of them in the Clone Wars series.
And Rhett mentioned none of them ever spoke English before. This is the very first time.
Yeah, I think that's right. And
I didn't think it was really an Ugnaught until several people were saying it was. And
when I watched it, I was kind of like, when I watched the second episode, I was like, well, I can't really tell if he's an Ugnaught for sure, but I think he is.
He seems a little pinker, but he does live in the desert. But
right.
Instead of like underground Bespin. Yeah.
But the Ugnaughts were all controlled by the Empire, and he talked about how he moved here to have peace and to get away from the war, so it'd make total sense if he was an Ugnaught.
Yeah, that's true. He also seemed a teeny bit taller than Ugnaughts, but I only remember him standing next to Chewie, which is not a good comparison. Fight when they're next to Chewie.
He does say a dumb line, though. This is my other problem. I have this problem with it. This just happens on sci-fi and fantasy when he's all like, the only way to get to the city, or it's impossible to get to the city without riding one of these creatures. And I'm like, so is it in an underground cave with lots of stalagmites and stalactites and they have to like jump around? No, it's just over there. And when he's like, can I just get a speeder? And he's all like, what about your ancestors? And I'm all like, okay, we didn't spend nearly enough time in this scene to build up that emotional moment.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Where he's like, okay, now that I've thought about my ancestors, I'm going to hop onto this thing. It's like, no, we probably should have seen him failing for a long time.
Yes. Right. Okay.
It was a pretty dumb scene.
If you want to see this scene done right, go back and watch The Legend of the Lone Ranger with Christopher Lloyd playing Cavendish. Fantastic movie. I made Lance watch it a few months last summer, and it was better than he thought it was going to be. Back in the 80s, like 83 or something. And the scene where the Lone Ranger has to tame and learn how to ride Silver, who's a total wild horse, and he like goes through this whole montage, a good one. It's not too long, but he goes through and figures out how to calm it, how to approach it, how to not get thrown into where he's getting knocked off and bucked and everything. But it's done well that you can understand their connection by the end of it, and that's his horse, and it's awesome. He totally, what's the word? When you domesticate a beast like that. Can't think of it. Anyway.
You break him.
Yeah. But like, that's a good scene, done really well. Good music, good way they filmed everything. This was like, you see him fall down like 4 times. He can jump right up it. When they first cut to him in the little ranch, he can jump right on top of it, and then it bucks him, he falls off. And then he goes and has his moment with Nick Nolte. Nick Nolte's like, well, your ancestors could ride, dinosaurs. Okay, so he just
and he's
goes
like, fine. And then he gets on. And then
whoa, and then you can barely get on, and you're supposed to be like impressed. Then it just cuts to them running across these mud cracks, where it's like, hey, I could jump that. It didn't show.
Right, I could walk this. It might take a little longer, and then not only that, but when they get there, the other droid shows up, and you're like, well, how did he get here? Did he ride one of those creatures, or did he just walk?
Yeah, I was like, okay. If the point was you have to get there and you need to avoid having metal or something their sensors will pick up, IG-11 literally walked right up to the front door.
Right, they needed to have something there. I tell you, this happens with things all the time though. Like you're watching Lord of the Rings and you're all like, why doesn't Gandalf use his magic? They've established they have magic. In sci-fi, it's why don't they use a speeder? They've established that this would be way better, and
it's like
it exists in the universe.
If it's some culture thing, if he's trying to teach him a lesson, but like you said, they didn't spend any time on it, and it was just such a quick chop to get out there. And that's the one weak part of the CGI. I agree. Lance mentioned that too. But the CGI right there when they first start riding off and starts moving fast looks weird. But it can be done really cool. And I was thinking also about I can't remember the creatures, the really tall white things in the Dark Crystal. the things that run really fast.
Yeah.
That was a scene that was like magical. Not just I'm not talking about the film. I'm just talking about in the story when they're at one point they need to get there and they have to do it so quick and they ride beautifully. Crawl when they have to get the Thunder Mares because they have to get there in a certain amount of time. That's the only way to do it. In the plot, write something kind of interesting that we care about a beast riding sequence, not just because you're going to fake and you're going to tell the audience again, throw right in their face that Mandalorians are good with beasts.
Or just skip it. I mean,
yeah.
like if he was gonna keep that creature and take it with him, like he's gonna have a connection with it, and he was gonna use it as his version of a land speeder throughout the series, I would be okay with that.
He gets to the right above the horizon of the overlook, and he turns and says he tries to give him money, and Nick Nolte's like, no. Oh, you can pay me in half. He's like, or no, earlier in the tent is when he said that in his hut. He's like, I can pay you half. He says half of the bounty. That's a lot of money for a guide. He's like, no, half of the 2 blurbs that you helped me bring in.
Right.
So he gave him that blurb. He had his really forced connection with it to learn how to ride it. He rode out there and then it wandered away because when he's walking back with Yoda in the next episode, the blurb's gone.
It's gone.
So apparently you can walk, now wounded with a baby, but you couldn't get there.
No, that was some dumb. Yeah, it was just dumb science fiction stuff. It happens in everything, but it's just dumb stuff. It's where, hey, someone needed to look at that and go, hey, we need to think about this just for like 2 minutes longer.
Right.
That's
just. I agree. Yeah. And seeing him get worse, having him falling in the mud a lot, and then cut to them later that night, and then have the conversation about your ancestors, then the next day trying again, then triumphing, that would have worked. I've been okay.
Right.
But anyway, okay, he gets there. Let's talk about IG-11. Here's my IG-88. First thing cool. IG-88, this, so I didn't look for it, but he actually came with, this is the 90s version, he actually came with a Stormtrooper rifle. This one was a Stormtrooper rifle. I thought that was really interesting. I don't think they did that on purpose, but I don't think Favreau had that. Like, oh, I know of an Easter egg. Well, that was kind of coincidental, kind of fun. But what did you think of IG-11?
I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought they did a good job with the droid. No, I liked it. I thought it was fun, and I actually liked how he kept wanting to self-destruct. He's just like, yeah, I'm gonna self-destruct. He's like, what? No. I mean, I think the Mandalorian realized he had no chance if the droid self-destructed, right? Like, even if the droid was like, I'm done.
Yeah, I liked it. I love the movement. I think that was so cool. Like that, I was not.
Yes, the shooting, the way he was shooting and turning.
Helmet just pivots in all places. Even when he's just walking over the body to come over and interact with the Mandalorian, how he doesn't like step, he just like pivots. That's just kind of like a lobster kind of crab walk. So cool. But here's the only thing I didn't like about it. But they, in recent comments with IG-88, they have established that this same model is horrendously deadly as an assassin, and these are security droids.
Yeah, they had him in. Was it Rebels or Clone Wars? I can't remember which one. One of them, where they're very scary. Well, versions, they're bounty hunter droids. I can't remember what model.
Yeah, they're really powerful hunter droids. In old canon, even in video games, IG-88's the one that could stand up against Boba Fett.
Right.
And he tried to capture or just steal back Han Solo when he was on his way to Jabba the Hutt. I know this isn't Boba Fett, and I know this isn't IG-88. But like you've established, and we all have a feel when we see this droid, it's a scary looking droid. To have him being the goofy thing, that's okay. But when he's spinning around and shooting and stuff, I'm trying to figure out, like, RoboCop would have killed these guys because he can, calculate trajectories and stuff. He didn't seem to be that accurate for a programmed security deadly droid. That was my issue.
Oh. I didn't think that at all. I thought he totally destroyed most of those guys. Like, he was tearing them up. They were just really outnumbered.
I guess, but I mean, for as fast as he could turn and shoot, and his eyes, he could see 360. I didn't feel like he was like just capping them all off. Like they didn't have like hundreds of guys. It was like as quick as you were moving around just shooting, you should be able to shoot perfect accuracy and move on. But the Mandalorian had to get out and do his shots. And I'll say this shootout was not as awesome as some recent Westerns, especially Magnificent Seven has one of the best shootouts I've ever seen. But it was fun, but I think I've seen better Western shootouts, and that's completely what they were going for, so it's fair to compare that. I didn't think it was the best setup. It was fine, but I didn't think it was the best action sequence. I'm sure everyone else.
No, it was fun. It was cool. I don't think they want to do all of their cool stuff in the first episode or even the first couple episodes.
But if they have another episode where they're like storming a small bandit compound like this is a Western theme.
Right.
Well, we've already done that in 8 episodes. Why would you do that twice if you're going to do it?
I see what you're saying. That's a good point. Yeah.
And the part I didn't like, him jumping on the Gatling gun and just shooting,
mowing everyone down. That was kind of cheese. I'm okay with it, but it was kind of cheese, because none of them that can hit him, but he can hit everyone as he's taking his time to mow them down. If you're that
accurate, your pistol and rifle, you shouldn't miss if you can get a Gatling gun and hit every target in a circle without them.
He had protagonist armor.
Yeah, flat armor. All right. Shoot their way in. That was a good comedic moment when they both, how are we going to open the door? They both turn to the thing. I like that.
And use it, yeah.
It was fun. Then they shoot it. They kind of shoot it a little too perfectly, but whatever. We just saw him unrealistically shooting it. Goes in, and then we have the conflict of who's paying for who, because now I don't know. And then he goes, and then he has the stupid E.T. touch, who usually points his finger at him. I didn't like that, and I've heard other people say, hopefully they have some reason for why he has a connection, and we know he already said he was a whatling, that she called him for being a survivor or whatever. Foundling, yeah. So maybe, and we saw him as a little kid, but he wasn't like so little you'd be like, oh, I don't know.
Right.
It was just an awkward moment for this deadly bounty hunter to be like, oh, it's a baby. I don't know. But
I don't know. I remember watching Wonder Woman, and it's like, this is awesome warrior woman, god, descendant, and yet she's having these feminine moments, sort of fun, cute, feminine moments. I was okay with it in Wonder Woman. I think I'm okay with it here.
For a woman, and then her being a fish out of water, this is like a hardcore adult human, or Mandalorian, seeing an alien creature that's an infant, and he's still like...
He's like, what? I don't know.
Him just turning his head in the visor, just like looking curiously, that would have worked better for me than, oh, it's just a baby.
All he did was stick his finger out.
Or, you remember Firefly, the first episode?
Uh-huh.
The pilot, when he opened the crate and he saw River?
He's just like, huh.
It just shows him, when you watch it on DVD, it cuts right through it. But the original pilot, the first cut there, he's just like, huh. And
then it goes to commercial.
That's what should have happened. You shouldn't have seen Baby Yoda. It was so cool to be like, what the crap did he see? Anyway, just a little, Anyway, all right. Next episode, let's fly through this fast because not a lot happens story-wise.
Story-wise, that's right. It's a lot of fun. It's solid, but it's,
It's its own little adventure, which is
him having to get his ship back, basically. He has to get his ship back together.
He gets out. First thing I love, his gauntlet, I think piece by piece, he's going to be losing his armor. His gauntlet
replacing it, though. He's going to get Beskar pieces. I kind of like that. You're seeing his armor get damaged, but then there's the prospect of him replacing parts.
Did you notice when IG-11 shot him before he pulled out his ID, I'm in the guild, the shot went right to his new shoulder pad from it looked like.
Yeah.
But he's got the dinosaur in the first one, the blurb bit his arm here. This one, the rhino smashed his, grinded up his chest. And he's sitting there doing a Predator-style first aid job on his arm.
I love that little scene because the little baby gets up and he reaches up and he's like, what are you doing? Go back to your little thing. And the baby's like, no, I'm going to heal you with the Force. And he's like, go back in your bed.
Let's talk about this. I'm okay with the Baby Yoda. Not being Yoda, but a baby, whatever the species is.
Yeah, we're using Baby Yoda as just the title for it for now.
Placeholder so we know what the crap it is. But I don't know how I feel about it being 50 and an infant, which is fine because they age slow, but being an infant but has these powers with training. Unless they're just going to... we've thrown out...
I'm okay with it because so far it's tame. Like, it lifted up the creature, but it didn't force throw the creature. It didn't,
But the
it didn't crush it.
like an impulse.
Well, so let's math this out. Because you can start thinking as a child. It's clear that it has conscious thought, like it recognizes what's going on around it.
He walked up twice to go touch his arm because he was watching him processing that he was healing himself.
Right.
Where, I don't know. I mean, this is way too early to complain about this. I just don't like throwing a Force user into this story so freaking quickly. I don't like it because either one is going to go off and be a Jedi that has nothing to do with the Force Awakening and the Last Jedi in the future, or it's going to get killed, and I don't want to get attached to this freaking cute freaking little Yoda where to be killed or somehow quelled in the Force. I almost said spirit. No matter where they go with it, I don't see how I can like it. And I already hate Ezra. I hate all that stuff because it takes away from Luke and his place. I don't like Jedi in this era of the universe. I hate it. I hate it.
Well, I do think that they are overly powerful really fast.
Jedi, just in general? Okay. Yoda's species being Force sensitive, great. But that it started using Force powers, where can they go with that?
Well, I don't know where they're going to go with it. They did say it's supposed to be a really important character in the universe. Well, hold on. They live to be like 900 years old. Humans live to be 80 years old. So they live 10 times as long, which means 50 years old would be basically 5 years old.
But where could they possibly take it in the story, in the universe, that would be satisfactory? I mean, what would you like? I don't like anything that they can do with it.
This is where I think it would be interesting if I don't know where they can go with it in the long term, but if the Empire did clone Yoda and they want to get this back as a way to fight their way back into power, create a new emperor, create someone with ultimate power, I think that's a very interesting, proactive goal for the Empire to seek after.
And at the end, are you just going to put it in hiding?
I think it's going to die. I honestly think it'll die.
That sucks. Don't introduce an infant. You know, like imagine in Willow, they get to the end and they kill Magmorn, and then Lord Denon dies. What was the whole point? We just protected.
Well, but the question is, what's the story going to be about? And that's what we need to find out.
Right.
Like, if it's going to be about the Mandalorian's arc, then I think it could be really good. If they build up the baby and it dies, that could be really cool. If it creates a character moment for the Mandalorian. If it doesn't, then it becomes the last season of Game of Thrones, where they're just killing people for shock factor.
What if he dies protecting it? That'd be a fun little arc. But I'm like, I don't know. I hate the Force users being so strong in the galaxy during this era. It just doesn't click and make sense to me. But
I actually agree with you on that point. Rey, in fact, I almost defended her. I said, Episode 7, she did some interesting things that she probably shouldn't have been able to do, but it was still limited. And people are like, oh, she's a Mary Sue. And I'm like, nah, she's not so much a Mary Sue. Then I saw The Last Jedi, and I'm like, okay, yeah, she's a Mary Sue. I mean, 100%. She can do anything she wants. She can do more than Luke could do. After a bunch of training, right? Like,
and experience and hanging out with Jedi.
It had been a couple weeks, and she could do more than Jedi could do in years, right? From our understanding, from the prequel era, like. So I agree with you with that, but it is a little Yoda, so I'm kind of like, well, I guess it would be freaking powerful. But right now, I'm okay with it because they are limiting it, right? It didn't do anything too crazy, and it did make it have to sleep.
Start lightsaber fighting.
Right. It Force held the creature for a second and kind of helped the Mandalorian, and then it was too much for it to use, and it went to sleep.
Yeah, it took it out. I like that.
So,
I don't know.
So as long as they keep it contained, I'm okay with it for now.
Yeah, the Jedi are too big of an influence in these stories. I just was frustrated that it came so early. A baby Yoda, fine. Force sensitive Yoda or baby Yoda, okay, that's cool. But doing Force powers on the second episode twice, or attempting to once and then doing it twice, I'm like, okay. Anyway, we'll see. I'm not discounting it. It can go somewhere.
Yeah. No, I think that's a valid concern. I don't know what they're going to do with it. I think that's a valid concern to
That's
have.
what I'm doing these with you, Zach. You agree with me once in a while. But can I say one cool Easter egg? I don't think anyone else really. I don't know if people cared or thought about it, but in the Lego Star Wars games, when you played with Yoda, you still there?
Yeah. But in the game, you're on your cane.
Ball, and he was just hovering around.
Yeah.
Just his little bassinet. So I'm like, it's kind of. I don't know if it was intentional. I was like, that's kind of funny that Yoda's floating around his little ball, and he goes pretty fast too. When he was trying to chase down the sandcrawler, it went with him. But let's go back. He goes, he beats up the 3 Naktu guys. I think they would have followed him, because if I remember, they did the camping scene, then this happened. I might be wrong. It might have happened then the camping scene, but they were probably the stragglers or whatever from the compound, followed him, beat them up, which was cool, used a couple of his weapons, and then healing himself, and then he goes back and he sees himself. Did you like him sniping off a few Jawas, or was that a little too...
No, I thought it was cool. In fact, I really liked him having to load the gun with each of the disintegration shots and pop them off. I thought that it was very Western. It was kind of a wagon chase, right? Like, it was cool.
Totally was. And I didn't think about it as much the first time, but the second time, he's like pulling the shots, the bolts. What are they called?
Pellet bullets, shells, yeah.
Pump them in and then just fire, and then and you could hear almost the same clicking noise, but Star Wars.
When I was looking at it, I was like, is that how Jawas die? I don't remember them just disappearing when they die. But then I was like, oh no, he's disintegrating them.
Disintegrating them, yeah. Kills a few. Now these Jawas have dark robes instead of orange or brown robes, and then they have blood red eyes instead of yellow or white eyes. I'm like, this is kind of interesting. This is like the Dark Ryu in Street Fighter. It's like,
or it's kind of like, I just wondered if it was a different tribe of Jawas, right? Like,
it's a different planet, so I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But they have their sandcrawler, books it after he shoots a few, strip the ship, they take off. And that scene, I know other people have probably come up with that, but like, it totally reminded me he was trying to get up to the top. It was the second level of Super Star Wars, the original platform jumper to get to the top with all the way.
That's right.
They're throwing thermal detonators at you, and it sucked.
You know what I actually thought of was Indiana Jones, and I think it's the third. Is it the third one with the tank? Yeah, with the tank. Yeah. That's Crusade. That's what I thought of.
But they were funny, like just his ways of getting out. And it was kind of with that one part when he first was underneath it, and he looks down and you see the big wheel. Like, you're like, holy cow. Yeah. Like, his armor's not that good. Like, if he falls, he's toast.
He's toast. Oh, yeah.
He throws a couple of them off. He gets to the top, comedic moment. They all go, Wee-cha-la!
All of them are sitting there and they blast him. And we talked about this in messages a little bit. I think it's funny how he goes back after that and he's all like, oh, I couldn't get inside. And I'm all like, your problem wasn't getting inside. You went to the top and there's a million dudes on top who just blasted you.
Right. I think if he's ready for that, he could just reach over with his flamethrower or whatever. They were all wearing gold.
Blast them. Nah, it's like, your problem is you're outnumbered, dude. You can make up any excuse you want, but I don't think you're going to kill all these guys.
I like the guy at top, though. He had his little... little half of a phone he talks into. Yeah. Just like one of those old canned phones with a string that goes to the cockpit.
Yeah, that's right.
He's like, he's coming or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, this thing is so ghetto. I love it. Anyway.
The ghetto sandcrawler.
It's so funny. But it's cool to see it. See it in action. See it moving. I love Jawas. I actually do like their society, their culture. I like the extended stuff you saw with them a little bit on in episode 2 when Anakin's looking for the Tusken Raiders and he pulls up, he's talking to them, they have their little camp set up outside the sandcrawler. Some of those shots are really cool. And there's some really cool early concept art of Tatooine that has some great pictures of the Jawas. I like it. So I like kind of seeing them, even though they're little jerks. Not just for attacking, but, the whole what happens. But anyway, long story. He goes, they want him to go get some egg. You think it's going to be some sacred special egg or something worth a lot of money.
I love that.
So he goes and he fights the other rhino. So what did you think about this fight?
So this kind of reminded me of the, I think it was me and Rhett talked about this, was the Reek from episode 2. Remember at the end when they put him in the arena, they put Anakin in them. There were the 3 creatures. One was the scorpion, one was like a big horn creature. It kind of looked like that. It was smaller. It was a lot smaller, but it kind of looked like that. So I don't know if they're the same or similar, but that's kind of what I thought of. So I thought it was kind of a nod to that. I thought it was okay. It's
I
just
like
sort of
him being spat out of the cave. And that reminded me of the Mandalorian Wars book, the first book in the old canon, where it had the story of how Boba Fett survived the Sarlacc pit, and his armor, even in the old role-playing game and stuff, they talked about his armor was completely, it was like negated after he climbed out. It was the stomach acid and everything from Sarlacc and ruined
it.
So by the time he got out, he was a lot weaker. But him being spat out and his gears all messed up, it kind of totally reminded me of that. I didn't know if it was supposed to be a similar feel. Some people think that this book or this story was an original, the Boba Fett movie they were talking about years ago, back when Lucas still owned it, that they just kind of stripped and replaced parts and
made it to a new character.
Completely possible. Anyway,
I can see that. But yeah, no, I thought it was fun. I did like the little guy stopping the fight or helping. He didn't end the fight, and that's what I liked. If he had ended the fight, I would have been like, oh, okay.
He just negated Boba Fett or I don't know, Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Well, I like the knife.
I loved it. I like the pacing overall. I think it's they're letting the audience go on the adventure with this guy instead of force feeding the audience every last little thing, right? They're trusting that we're semi-intelligent and can figure some of this stuff out, which I'm good with. And it doesn't mean they're perfect. I agree with you to some extent on that, I think.
Or camera work. I mean, the way they were doing when he was knocked down and this kept zooming in and out of focus on his armor.
Yes.
His helmet was really cool. Walking through the montage when he's at the end fixing up his ship and everything, beautifully done. Like different things they did in the first episode. There was some stuff like him having the flashbacks, that even though the concept of flashbacks was done, but the way they triggered between his helmet, watching the flames off of his mask and stuff. Really cool work done with the cinematography.
And this was crazy. I need to look into this. I was reading that the little Yodeling is a puppet. I totally thought it was CGI, but the camera operator, he was talking about how there were two people handling that puppet to make it work. Now, it may be they were just handling whatever that they end up replacing with the creature. But I want to research that because
I'm interested.
I'm interested in what they do, because if that's a puppet, that's amazing.
That is amazing. It's really the hairs in it, and it has, because it's not just hair, it's like peach fuzz, like a young,
right,
it's like, it's really interesting.
Maybe it's both, maybe it's a mix of both, but yeah, the way he described it, because he said we were looking on set and it was like, he said it was like haunting or something like that, seeing him create the little creature like that, and I'm like, well, that's a really weird way to describe it.
Right. I also noticed it has solid black eyes. Yoda doesn't have black eyes. He has white and then like blue, or he has colored eyes. Maybe brown.
Yes.
I don't remember.
Okay.
They could be black, but they're not solid black. He's not, like a shark. So that's kind of interesting too. And his ears, it's kind of cool. His ears are like really thin.
They're really thin.
Really, because they're almost transparent, like it's fleshy and look like cartilage. Really cool design. I mean, whatever they do.
When you see it too, you're all like, oh, it's really cute. Like they did a good job making it a cute little. Like you want it to be alive and protected, right?
I just don't want it to use the Force in the story. That's all story stuff. It has nothing to do with the character. Anyway, rating. You said you gave 9 out of 10 on the first one, 10 out of 10 on the second one, huh?
Yeah, I don't have a thing to complain about on the second episode. I thought it was solid. It was, they're pretty slow burn with these episodes. It's not like tons of high action and then really low moments. It's just pretty slow burn. It's pretty even, but I like that going along with the character on their journey. There's shows like Better Call Saul. Early seasons of Game of Thrones were kind of slow burns and then would have really good moments. I can appreciate those. I really like those. So, yeah.
I like the environment. That's what I love, between the script and the scenery, the set design, the character designs of a lot of different characters. I really like the world that they're establishing on what the universe is like at this time. It's intriguing, and you're really curious about this. Because now all I want to know is not because I need Luke Skywalker in every story, but where's Luke right now? This is after the Battle of Jakku, which I don't know all about, but like, where is everyone? I'm just curious at this time frame, not in this story, not related to this story,
right.
At this time in other places, what's going on?
We really don't know anything about it. In fact, I heard they're coming out with a comic that's going to address some of Luke and Kylo Ren, so early Kylo Ren before he Ben Solo before he becomes Ben Solo.
Yeah, it's like another 10 years down.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's still this huge, like they're still focused over here, and they're kind of building back from over here, but there's this huge space.
And more towards Return of the Jedi, that's more interesting to me. Like, that's the Thrawn series, like the old canon, like all that stuff. Like, right, what happened with the Empire right after? What did the rebellion do? How did they take and everything? This whole new complicated government in the future in the current movies, great, we'll get there. You can tell me about that. You can even just tell me. I don't even need to see a series about it, but I'm still curious about seeing all this stuff.
Let's write our fan fiction, Tim. Let's write a fan fiction of what Luke's doing until Force Awakens.
Yeah. Anyway, well, I'm loving it. We're going to keep doing these discussions. I can't think of anything else other than I didn't really care for the Disney Winnie the Pooh shot of all the Jawas eating honey out of the honey pot. Like, wow,
I thought that was pretty funny. I thought that was a way to subvert expectations in a fun way.
It was, but like, are they really going to give up? They just stole this guy's stuff, and they're going to give up all that gear and everything back for a snack that they love. They must love that stuff.
That's the thing. Have you ever eaten it? I've never had it, so
I guess it's like the tree of life, right? More delicious honey than any other honey. All right. I don't know if I give it a 10 out of 10, but first 2 episodes, I'm saying, or at least 7, 8, 9-ish at least. I'd have to really think about it, but
7, 8, or 9. Okay.
I'm not judging these episodes until I see where they go. Then, like I said, with the character and this overall story, because then I can go back and see how I feel about how they executed it back here. Because I think there's some places with some weak setup and other things that might be setting up things I don't even realize it. So I'm still hanging in there and loving it. I'm excited to keep.
I think so too. I think I saw a couple people that were saying like 4 out of 10 and 3 out of 10, and I'm like, do you really think that? Like, are you just not going to watch it anymore? Because if you watch the rest of it, then you're just complaining to complain. That's a really low score, and I don't think that's valid.
We always praise Marvel because the MCU went back and they did, they do a heist movie and they do all these different types of movies that are all unique, and they're going to do a horror one with the future phase and everything. But they've done different types of movies, different genres with each of their films. This is the first Western, even though Star Wars is always like a fantasy space Western. This is the first one that was really a Western.
This is pretty focused on being a Western, yeah.
And it's good, and a samurai movie, The Lone Samurai, like that. Those two things are executed beautifully if you're looking at it that way. I just think it's really daring for them to do their first series, and that's why my issues with it being so slow. Like, this is, I said, Star Wars screen time for the audience is rare. It doesn't feel like it because we've had so many movies the last couple of years and we have all these animated things, but like just this live action filming, it's precious. And it was annoying for a little bit because I was thinking about it to be watching so much walking with this precious half hours that's been anticipated for so long. But now I see what they're trying to do. Okay.
And we talked about that too, how, it's a callback to some of the Kurosawa films and the Westerns, right? And
But if we had like a regular series before this, I'd be like, okay, this is a different thing. But this is our first live action series. And I'm like, this is weird. It didn't, it felt like the Star Wars universe, but it didn't feel like a Star Wars movie, and it's not a movie. But that's why I'm like reserving judgment. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's really gutsy of them to start it that way. It was an intriguing character, and everyone's loving it. It's a success. Great. I hope they do more. I want to see Obi-Wan so badly. But I would love to have seen the Rogue One story as like an 8-episode story.
I actually agree with that a lot. And I do hope these do well. Bob Iger said feature-length movies are kind of on hold for now.
Yeah.
And he said we're going to do some of these series, and I'm like, that's great. 6, 8-episode, 10-episode series that tell a story over time. Fantastic. That's a perfect place to explore parts of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. And the budget didn't feel too much like it was a cheap Star Wars. It didn't feel like nothing was glaring at me. So I don't know. I'm hooked. I'm excited. If you watch this and you have other thoughts, things you like, didn't like, things you agree with me or didn't agree with me, like most people do, tell us in the comments below. We're going to keep watching The Mandalorian. Do you think IG 9 or 11 is going to come back?
No. But
You don't
I
think so?
I think some other bounty droid will, but I don't think it'll be IG-11. It would be pretty funny for him to come back with a big hole in his head patched up. But...
So now they don't like the other one. Cool. All right. Well, Zach, thanks for joining me. I can't think of anything else I was going to say. It's really fun, and I'm excited. But we're going to do sometime next weekend, hopefully, after the next one drops next Friday. I guess it's coming out Fridays from what the projected schedule was. And we'll be here to break it down scene by scene so I can complain in order. And that's what I do. But anyway, Zach, thanks again for joining us.
Yep, no problem. Good to see you guys. Always happy to be here.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you next time on Saints on Cinema.